Hi students, how are you? Welcome back to another English at Home video. I am happy to bring you another video. This is video 17. That is a lot of learning. We have done 17 videos so far. And in this video, we will check the homework that I assigned in the last video that I gave you. Assigned means gave you in the last video. So get out your workbooks because we are going to check the answers and go over the questions in the workbook. Okay, are you ready? Let's get started. So this is the article that was in your workbook. You had to read the article and then answer some questions. We are going to listen to the article together. So I want you to listen and I want you to read along in your workbook as you listen to the article. Okay, so listen and read. Okay, let's go ahead and listen.
Page 84. Exercise 1.
How many credit cards should you have? How many credit cards do you have in your wallet? Are you worried about getting into debt? Many Americans carry 4 or 5 credit cards, but others have more than 10. Is it a good idea to have so many credit cards? Some people almost never pay cash. It's easier to use a credit card. They use their credit cards for everything: food, clothes, gas, utility bills, and rent. However, when the bills arrive, people who have too many cards sometimes can't afford the minimum payments. It's also difficult to keep track of so many cards. It's not uncommon to have store credit cards. Some stores offer a 10 to 15% discount when you use their credit card. They also offer coupons and other discounts. But be careful. The interest rates on these cards can be very high. It's a good idea to use a store credit card at your favorite store if you shop there often. But you should pay off the account balance immediately. That way, you won't pay any interest. Debt counselors say that it's a good idea to have at least 2 cards. Use one card for everyday living expenses and keep the other one for emergencies. They suggest choosing credit cards with low interest rates, keeping your account balance low, always trying to pay more than just the minimum payments, and having no more than 6 cards.
So, this article gave a lot of great information about how you can use credit cards and not get into a lot of debt. Do you remember in the last article we read, the Kim family was in a lot of debt because they used their credit cards too much after they got married. This article shows that you can use your credit cards, but you just need to be careful with how you use your credit cards. So let's go ahead and answer the questions that were in the workbook. Let's look at the example, number 1. What happens to some people when they have too many credit cards? And the answer, they can't afford the minimum payments. Remember, minimum payments are the smallest amount that you have to pay every month. Okay, minimum means small. So they can't afford the minimum payments. Let's look at number 2. What do some stores offer when you use their credit card? What do some stores offer when you use their credit card? So if you look back at the reading, it says some stores offer a 10 to 15% discount. A 10 to 15% discount. What does that mean? Well, if you have a credit card to a store and you use the credit card, they will take 10 to 15% off the total price just for using the credit card. Now, this can be good. If you are making a very big purchase and you can get a 15% discount, you might save a lot of money. But this can also be bad. Why? Well, most of those credit cards have a very high interest rate. They have a very high interest rate. So it might just look like you're saving money. If it takes you too long to pay the credit card, you will pay so much in interest that you are not really saving the 10 to 15%. You are actually paying more money because you have to pay a lot of interest. Let's look at number 3. Why is it important to pay off your account balance immediately? This question has 3 great vocabulary words: pay off, account balance, and immediately. They're asking, why is it important to pay off all the money you owe right away? Okay, why is it important? It is important to pay off your account balance so you won't have to pay interest. That's what we were just talking about. Many credit cards have very high interest, up to 25%, maybe even more. This is a lot of money. If you pay off your credit card every month so you owe no money, then you won't have to pay interest. If you only pay the minimum payment, every month you will have to pay a lot of interest. So it is important to pay off your account balance every month. Let's look at number 4. How many credit cards do debt counselors say you should have? Did you find that answer in the reading? It said debt counselors recommend having 2 cards. 2 cards. So remember, a debt counselor is a person who gives you advice about getting out of debt. A debt counselor. Counselors give advice. And remember, recommend means this is a good idea. I am telling you what I think is a good idea. So they recommend having 2 cards. 2 cards. Let's look at the next part of this activity, this exercise. So then you had to write what 4 tips were included in the article for using credit cards. What 4 tips did they give you? The first tip is there for you. Choose credit cards with low interest rates. This is very important. I told you, interest rates on credit cards can be very high. If you choose a card with a low interest rate, then even if you can't pay the total balance and you can only pay the minimum payment, you won't have to pay as much as if your interest rate is high. So if you can find a card with a low interest rate, that's the best. Number 2, keep your account balance low. This is also important. You don't want to be like the Kim family. It is best not to put too much on your credit card. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes there are things that we have to buy. Sometimes there are emergencies and we don't have the cash. Then maybe you need to put something on your credit card. But if you can keep your account balance low, then you will be less likely, it probably won't happen, that you will get into debt. It's sometimes important to buy things that you need. Like I said, maybe there is something broken in your house, like your oven, and you need to buy a new one, but you don't have enough money. So you choose to put that on your credit card and pay little by little. That might be okay. But if you want to buy a really big TV and you can't afford it, then you might end up like the Kim family and have a lot of debt. So you need to decide, is this something that I need or is this something that I want? And if it's just something that you want, maybe wait and buy it later when you have enough cash. Number 3, try to pay more than just the minimum payments. Again, we already talked about that. If you only pay the minimum payment, it will take you a very long time to pay off your credit card. So you should try to pay a little more than the minimum payment. If you can pay the total account balance, even better. And the final tip, have no more than 6 credit cards. Have no more than 6 credit cards. So now we need to match. This was doing some of the vocabulary that we have practiced. Okay? Number 1, they tell you minimum payment. Minimum payment. Remember, all of these words have, all of these phrases have 2 words. 2 words that go together to create one meaning. 2 words that go together to create one meaning. So minimum means the smallest, and payment, minimum payment. Let's look at number 2. Credit, I think we all know that one, card, credit card. Number 3, interest rate, interest rate. Number 4, debt counselor, debt counselor. And number 5, family budget, family budget. Do you remember family budget? A family budget is a family budget is a document. It is a piece of paper where you write down all the money that you spend every month on rent, on the light bill, on your water, on your groceries, all the money you spend every month just to live. Maybe you have a car, so you have to put how much you pay for your car and for gas. You write down all of your monthly expenses, the money that you spend on stuff. And then you look at, well, how much money do I make? What is my salary? What is my income? How much money do I make? And when you see what your expenses are, and you see how much money you make, you can see, well, do we need to try to save more money? Or is there a place that we can spend less money? And so it just helps you manage your money better. Do you remember that word manage? We talked about time management, how you choose to use your time. Well, money management is how you choose to use your money. And if you have a family budget, then you have a better idea of where your money goes every month and where you might be able to save or spend less. I want to take 1 minute to have you repeat these words with me. So you are practicing saying the words and not just reading the words. So repeat after me. Minimum payment, minimum payment. Credit card, credit card. Interest rate, interest rate. Debt counselor, debt counselor. Family budget, family budget. Okay. Now, in this exercise, we need to take those same words that we just did and put them into sentences. So we are going to still match the words, but this time we will practice it in sentences. So let's look at the first one. Number 1. I don't have any credit cards. I don't have any credit cards. Number 2. The blank rate is very high. The interest rate is very high. We always make a family budget. Right, we always make a family budget. What is the minimum payment? What is the minimum payment? Why don't you talk to a debt counselor? A debt counselor. Okay, next section. Okay, in this next section, we use the words that we just went over to fill in the blanks. So let's look at number 1. I canceled my credit card because the interest rate was over 25%. I canceled my credit card because the interest rate was over 25%. Number 2. We made a blank. Now we can save enough money every month. So what could you make that would help you think about how to save money? Right, we just talked about that. I made a family budget. Now we can save enough money every month. Number 3. When you use a blank, you borrow money and pay it back later. When you use a blank, you borrow money and pay it back later. Well, remember, buying things on credit means you buy it now, you take it home now, but you pay for it later. So when you use a credit card, you borrow money and pay it back later. Number 4, we talked to a blank to help us solve our financial problems. Remember, financial is anything having to do with money. So we talked to and who helps you solve money problems? If you are in debt, who can help you? We talked to a debt counselor to help us solve our financial problems, our money problems. And the last one here, the smallest payment you can make each month is the minimum payment. Remember, minimum means smallest. So the smallest payment you can make each month is the minimum payment. Okay. Now you can go to Video 18 and we will continue in Unit 7. Go to Video 18.